The girl slept with the school heartthrob she had a crush on after getting drunk. Later, she mustered the courage to confess her feelings to him. But the heartthrob told her to name her price. He said if he hadn't been drunk, he would never have touched a woman like her in this lifetime. Heartbroken, the girl deliberately applied to the university farthest from home, cutting off all contact with him. She never expected to hear Hayden's name again. At this gathering, organized by her roommate Liora, seeing how close he was with her roommate, Jill instinctively wanted to stay away. But then Liora spoke up first. Let me introduce everyone to. He's my. At this, Liora paused slightly, waiting 2 seconds before continuing, friend. When Hayden heard those 3 words, Jill's body trembled uncontrollably. It was really him. This man, who not only took her innocence for years ago, but also, on the night she gathered the courage to confess, tore her clothes apart like a madman in the street, hurling vicious insults at her, telling her never to appear before him again in this lifetime. Now, Jill was terrified of him. 4 years later, Hayden's aura had grown even more imposing. Faced with the other's eager greetings, he merely nodded slightly in response, every movement exuding politeness and nobility. In the end, Jill didn't dare to greet him, nor did she raise her head to look at him again. Fortunately, everyone in Therum was captivated by Hayden. No one noticed her rudeness. Soon, the privateer became lively. Everyone started chattering away non-stop again. But Jill wasn't like before. She no longer joined in such lively exchanges. She secretly clenched her fists tightly. Her sharp nails dug into her palms, using the pain to suppress her trembling body, avoiding letting those around her notice her unusual state. Just as Jill nearly tore her palms apart from gripping them too hard, Hayden spoke up. How about we change locations? Though he didn't call any names, everyone knew he was talking to Liora. Instantly, Jill let out a sigh of relief. This gathering here was finally about to end. She could finally find an excuse to leave. Hearing this, Liora nodded obediently. Sure. Hayden said nothing more, raised a hand to count waiter for the bill. While waiting for the server to bring the bill, he spoke up again, asking about going to Golden Splendor. Golden Splendor was a famously upscale KTV in Jing City. The people at the table grew visibly excited, their eyes gleaming. Liora, however, masked her emotions well. Her voice remained sweet and soft as she replied, sure, why not? But Hayden didn't say anything more after that. After a brief pause, she found a new topic. She spoke up again, addressing him, brother he. Did you know? Our Jill sings really well? Jill, suddenly brought into the conversation, flinched slightly. Her back stiffened involuntarily. She instinctively glanced toward where Hayden was sitting. The man merely leaned back coldly in his chair, his expression calm and unreadable, as if she didn't recognize the Jill mentioned by Liora. Makes sense. What happened 4 years ago was unforgettable for her. But for him, it was just a drunken mistake. 4 years had passed. Perhaps he had long forgotten those bygone days. Liora glanced at Hayden, noticing he had no intention of engaging in her conversation. So she turned to Jill instead. Speaking up again, she said, Jill, didn't you just learn a new song the other day? When we get to Golden Splendor later, you have to sing it for us. Liora's request wasn't particularly demanding. Normally, Jill wouldn't have refused. But tonight, with Hayden present, Jill turned her gaze to Liora. Her voice was soft as she replied, I'm not feeling well. I want to go back to school and rest. I won't be joining. Jill, what's wrong? Besides, it's so late now. It's not safe for you to go back alone. Why don't you just? Before Liora could finish her attempt to persuade her, Hayden, who had been sitting nearby, suddenly stood up. Ignoring their conversation entirely, he simply said, let's go, and strode out of the private room ahead of them. Liora didn't press further. Grabbing her bag, she hurried after him. The others in the room made half-hearted attempts to convince Jill to stay. But seeing she really had no intention of going, they all dispersed soon after. The spacious private room was suddenly left with only Jill alone. She wasn't in a hurry to get up and leave. Instead, she stared at the chair Hayden had just been sitting on, lost in thought for a long while, until the sound of waiters clearing the tables reached her ears. Only then did she blink her stinging eyes. Then she got up, picked up her bag, and left the hotel. After returning to school, Jill didn't hurry back to the dorm. Instead, she wandered around the playground. Her mind was in a daze. The words Liora said tonight echoed repeatedly in her ears. "Let me introduce everyone. She's my friend, Hayden." Jill instinctively pinched her palm. A sharp, indescribable pain instantly overwhelmed her entire being. The events from 4 years ago flashed vividly before her eyes, one scene after another. Jill thought those past events had long faded into obscurity over the years. But when the vivid Hayden truly appeared before her, she finally realized those wounds and pains had always been hidden deep within her bones and blood. Suddenly, a dull thunderclap flashed across the sky. Sporadic raindrops began to fall. Jill hurriedly ran toward the dormitory. Just as she neared the dormitory entrance, a familiar figure abruptly appeared. It was Hayden, holding an umbrella while escorting Liora back to her dorm. Ignoring the increasingly heavy rain, Jill frantically took a few steps back and hid behind a street lamp. Hayden and Liora walked slowly. Finally, when they dawdled their way to the dormitory steps, both Hayden and Liora stopped. Liora wasn't in a hurry to enter the dormitory, instead turning to face Hayden as she spoke. Because they were so far away, and the rain was loud, Jill couldn't make out what they were saying. But she could tell they were enjoying the conversation. The smile on Leora's face grew brighter and brighter. Jill's clothes were completely soaked. A chilly gust of wind blew past, leaving her shivering uncontrollably. Just as Jill was about to reach her limit, Liora finally turned and entered the dormitory. Yet Hayden remained standing under his umbrella for a while longer, before finally turning around, as if preparing to leave. There was only this one path in front of the dormitory. Feeling Hayden getting closer and closer to her, Jill instinctively pressed her face tightly against the lamppost, holding her breath, not daring to move a muscle, afraid he might discover her. The sound of the rain was loud. Jill couldn't hear the man's footsteps at all. She could only estimate the time silently in her heart. After about 4 or 5 minutes, certain that this duration was enough for Hayden to have walked far away, she finally leaned out and hurriedly ran toward the dormitory building. But she hadn't even taken 2 steps when her entire body froze in place. Hayden, at this moment, was standing about 2 meters away from her. Jill looked as if she'd seen a ghost, her eyes widening extraordinarily large. Several minutes had already passed. How was he still here? Hayden seemed to sense someone watching him. He tilted his head slightly and glanced in the direction where Jill stood. The moment their gazes met, Jill instinctively lowered her eyelids, avoiding his eyes. Hayden had originally been on a call, but the moment he saw the girl, his fingers abruptly ended the call. Then, out of the corner of her eye, Jill noticed Hayden lifting his foot, but she never heard him greet her. In that case, there was no need for her to shamelessly strike up a conversation, either. With that thought, Jill stepped forward toward the dormitory. The two were like complete strangers, each walking their own path. The rain continued to pour. Jill's clothes were now dripping wet. Her hair clung to her neck in damp, tangled strands. She looked utterly disheveled. Meanwhile, Hayden, sheltered under his umbrella, walked with steady elegance. His clothes remained dry and pristine. The stark contrast made Jill hang her head even lower. Her steps quickened as they brushed past each other. Distracted, she accidentally stepped into a puddle. Her foot slipped, and she fell hard onto the ground. Pain shot through her. Her first instinct was to glance back. Just as she expected, Hayden, walking under his umbrella, heard the commotion. He paused and turned his head to look. Their eyes met. Jill's heart skipped a beat. Her hands instinctively clenched into fists. This seemed to be the first time they had locked eyes since their reunion tonight. His gaze was distant and indifferent, as if they had never known each other. Jill was too stunned to look away. She didn't know why Hayden hadn't either. His eyes remained fixed on her arm. She instinctively followed his gaze. Only then did she notice the scrape on her arm from the fall. Tiny beads of blood welled up, only to be swiftly washed away by the rain. Jill didn't know. Why is he staring at his own wound? She just felt a bit uneasy. First, she slightly retracted her arm. Then, she secretly lifted her eyelids and glanced toward where Hayden was standing. The man had already averted his gaze, his eyes slightly lowered. He stood in the rain, holding an umbrella, his expression indifferent. It was unclear what he was thinking, nor did she waste much time on him. Enduring the pain from her arm, she stood up from the ground. Her knees were also injured, though not seriously. Under the relentless pouring rain, the pain felt especially intense. For a moment, she couldn't hold back and let out a faint whimper of pain. Upon hearing her whimper, the man's gaze swept toward her again. Just this time, after taking a quick glance, he turned away indifferently, walking away at a steady pace. Hayden's figure disappeared into the heavy rain for a long time. Only then did Jill snap back to reality. Staggering slightly, she headed toward the dormitory entrance. Back in the dorm, all three roommates had already washed up and gone to bed, each busy with their own things. Liora turned on her phone speaker. Unclear who she was calling. The first to notice Jill entering was the roommate Bohi. She froze for a moment, then sprang up from her bed. "Jill, why are you all wet and dirty again?" "It's nothing," Jill smiled, grabbing a towel and a change of clothes. She headed for the bathroom. "And your arm? How did you get hurt too?" Peppermint got out of bed and walked over to Jill. At the same time, Leora's call was answered. Hayden's voice came through. "What's up?" Jill, who was about to respond, heard the man's voice. Her lips pressed together slightly. She stayed silent and just quickened her pace into the bathroom. As she closed the door, Jill faintly heard the voice from Leora's phone. It was Hayden asking, "Is everyone in your dorm here?" By the time Jill finished showering and came out, Liora had already hung up. Each of the roommates held a cup of milk tea in their hands, chattering away nonstop. Bohi noticed Jill coming out and pointed at her desk, saying, "Jill, your milk tea is over there." Talia chimed in. It was just sent by Ruya's boyfriend. So before she entered the bathroom, she heard Hayden ask Liora that question. Turns out, it meant this: treating the entire dorm to milk tea on Leora's behalf. Jill mouthed a quick "thank you" to Liora. To avoid drawing suspicion, she carried the milk tea to her bed, placed it by her pillow, didn't touch the others. The three of them sipped their milk tea and kept chatting. The conversation revolved entirely around Leora's new boyfriend. "Noah, your boyfriend is so sweet. Right? Tonight at Golden Splendor, you wanted milk tea, but they didn't have any there. After dropping us back at the dorm, he actually turned around and ran off to buy some for you. What's even better is, he doesn't smoke or drink. So many people tried to persuade him to drink that night, but he refused. He said something about how drinking tends to invite trouble. A man with such self-control is just too good to be true." The next few people whispered among themselves. Jill didn't catch a single word. Her mind was completely occupied by the phrase, "drinking tends to invite trouble." She thought back to 4 years ago, when Hayden looked down at her and said, "If I hadn't been drunk that night, do you really think I would have touched you?" It felt like something had pierced the deepest part of Jill's heart. The pain made her face turn an unnatural shade of pale. A week later, on a weekend, he and Talia went out shopping, leaving only Jill and Liora in the dorm. Liora had plans with Hayden that evening to attend an outdoor party. She was doing her makeup when she suddenly remembered something. Turning to look at Jill, who was curled up on the bed reading. "Jill, I remember you saying you went to Sioux City's #1 high school, right?" "Brother, he also studied at Sioux City's a high school." "Did you know him back then?" Visitors were allowed in B Film Academy's dorms during the day. When Hayden arrived downstairs at their dorm, his phone happened to die. He hesitated for a moment, but ultimately decided to go up himself. Jill's dorm door was left open. Out of courtesy, Hayden didn't push door open directly. He raised his hand, about to knock on the door. He heard Liora's question from inside. Hayden's knocking motion silently paused. Several seconds passed. Only then did he hear Jill speak. The girl's voice was flat, without the slightest fluctuation. "I don't know, Liora." Her tone was full of regret. "I thought you and brother he would know each other. I really want to know what he was like in high school." Seeing Jill didn't respond, Liora continued. "But Jill, brother he is so outstanding. He must have been a prominent figure at school, right? Back when you were studying. Did you hear anything about him?" This time, Jill didn't hesitate like before. She replied unusually quickly. "I don't pay much attention to him." "Oh, I see." Liora probably could tell. She came from Jill's side. Couldn't find out anything about Hayden. Then awkwardly shut up. The room fell quiet for a moment. Liora, now finished with her makeup, spoke again before standing up. "By the way, Jill, brother he called me a couple of days ago. Said there's an outdoor gathering at Sioux Garden tonight hosted by one of his friends. Lots of big names from the film industry invited. He mentioned we're both studying acting. Could go and network a bit. Might be helpful for the future. Are you going?" Jill wished she and Hayden could spend this lifetime without ever crossing paths again. How could she possibly willingly attend a gathering where he'd be? She almost reflexively replied, "No." The word barely left her lips. Jill only then realized that he was slightly losing his composure. Quickly toned down the tone a bit. Added that "I have other things to do tonight." Liora persuaded. "Is it something important? If it's not, just cancel it and come with me. We finally have a chance to mingle with people in the circle. It'd be such a shame to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "What a pity." "Thank you, Roya. I appreciate your kindness." Before Jill could finish her sentence, an orderly knock came from the door. Liora went to open it. Upon seeing Hayden standing outside, she froze for a moment. Then her face lit up with a smile. "Brother, did you come up to get me?" Hayden didn't respond, leaning against the doorframe with a neutral expression, not entering. Seeing this, Jill quickly lowered her head to read, pretending not to notice someone coming. Liora was afraid Jingnian would grow impatient. Soon everything was packed up. "Brother, let's go." Hayden still didn't speak. He only gave a slight nod. As he turned to leave, his gaze involuntarily drifted toward Jill's direction. Before his eyes could land on the girl, they were drawn to the trash bin on her desk. Though she had deliberately covered it with tissues, he clearly caught sight of the milk tea inside. The seal was completely intact. It had clearly been thrown away without a single sip taken. Liora took 2 steps toward the door before pausing. She turned to look at Jill as if out of politeness. "Jill, are you really not coming with me?" Before she could finish her question, Hayden, standing nearby, suddenly spoke in a somewhat cold tone. "Not just anyone can go to tonight's gathering. What kind of random people are you inviting?" Hearing this, Jill's fingertip holding the book stiffened slightly. "I'm also glad in my heart. I didn't agree to Liora invitation just now. Otherwise, Shirley wouldn't know." After hearing Jingnian's words, what kind of reaction should I have? After speaking, Hayden didn't linger for a moment, turned around and left directly, leaving behind an awkward and stifling atmosphere in the room. Yoya stood there, looking utterly at a loss, glanced at Hayden's receding figure. I took another look at Jill. She pursed her lips. He whispered a quick sorry to Jill, then quickly closed the door, chasing after Jingnian's figure. Only Jill was left in the dormitory. She maintained the same posture as before, after staring at the book with a calm expression for a long time. Just lightly blinked their eyes. He raised his hand to wipe away that tear. She originally planned to finish reading the book in her hands before going home. Hayden just made a sudden appearance. It completely killed her mood for reading. So she simply put the book aside, left the dormitory early. 2 years ago our family bought a new apartment in Beijing, so going home isn't far for her. It wasn't even 5 o'clock yet when I got home. Thinking it's not yet mealtime, Jill took a nap in the bedroom. I don't know how long it's been. When she groggily woke up, the faint sound of father's voice could be heard downstairs. She thought it was her father on the phone. Didn't think too much and went straight downstairs. Until I walked into the living room, Jill instinctively glanced toward the sofa. Only then did I realize, apart from my father, there was also a man sitting on the sofa. She could only see the back of his head. But even so, she recognized who was at a glance. Jill's footsteps paused slightly. Hayden isn't with Liora. Did you go to some outdoor gathering? How could he appear in his own home? Jill hadn't yet snapped it out of his astonishment. Father has already found out about her. Jill, look who's here. Accompanied by father's voice, Hayden turned his head to look over. Their gazes unexpectedly collided with each other. Jill's fingertips trembled abruptly. She was desperately restraining her most natural demeanor, turning his gaze back to his father. Father thought she was curious about how Hayden appeared at home. Began to explain. The reason is your mom ran into Jingnian the other day. Only then did I realize he was also in Beijing. Back when you were living at your grandma's place in Sioux City for school. I've really troubled Auntie Ho quite a bit. I happened to return from a business trip today. Of course, we must invite Jingnian to our home for a visit. Aunt, he is Hayden's mother. That woman and Jill's mother are best friends. Back when Jill was studying in Sioux City, because grandma is getting old. Her parent-teacher meetings were all attended by Hayden's mother. Back then, the two families. The connection is still very close. Later, after she graduated from high school, her grandmother passed away. Their family never returned to sucking again. Connection with the Waka family, just limited to greetings during the holidays. Looking at Jill standing there like a fool. Didn't say hello to Ho King Neen. Father couldn't help but speak with a hint of reproach. Jill. Back in Sioux City at the time. You've been running Toth Ho family quite a bit. Back then, you and Jingnian were still classmates. How come you don't even say hello now? Ji Zhansheng was afraid his father would find out there was something wrong between them. Even if there are countless unwilling thoughts in my heart. But she still went head under her father's urging. Trying hard to maintain composure, he greeted Hayden politely, saying, "Hello. Long time no see." This time, Hayden did not ignore her. His voice was polite and courteous, mixed with his characteristic composure. Long time no see. He seemed afraid that he would have to exchange pleasantries with her next. As soon as I finished, I immediately turned it around and bumped into my stepfather. Continuing the previous topic. Left aside, G lowered her eyelids, turned around and went to the kitchen to help my mother. Dinner time. The position arranged be the stepmother. She deliberately made Jill and Hayden sit side by side. The two people were very close to each other. The scent on Hayden's body. From time to time, it drifted into Jill's nose. She felt extremely stressed. The hand holding the chopsticks felt a bit awkward. Several times I tried to pick up the food but couldn't get it. Fortunately, the parents' attention was all on Hayden. No one noticed her lapse in composure. After a meal, Jill had almost exhausted all of his strength. After eating, she didn't want to stay at home for a single second longer. He lied straight to his mother, saying something had happened to his classmate. Need her help. Then he hurried lifeled from home. Can go out to the neighborhood gate. She was just about to hail a taxi. Then I realized that he left in a hurry. I didn't bring me coat or wallet. Jill was originally because of he. Jing Nian just fled from home. Naturally, I don't want to go back again. So she simply stood by the roadside, picking up the phone to call a ride-hailing service. It's just that the traffic in Beijing is really congested right now. As a result, she waited for a long time, but no driver accepted the order. Jill stared intently at the phone screen. She didn't notice a blockade parked beside her. The car window rolled down. The people inside turned to look at her. Seeing Jill shivering slightly from the cold, the person in the car slowly furrowed their handsome brows. At that very moment, Jill's phone rang. The phone call was from my mother. She answered the call. Jill, what happened to your classmate? Not serious. A cold breeze blew by. Jill let out a loud sneeze. The man in the car furrowed his brow even more deeply. He seemed to be hesitating about something. His eyes were fixed on Jill the whole time. I thought something big had happened. The mother's tone clearly became somewhat more relaxed. Then she changed the subject. Jill, what do you think of Jing Nian? Jill didn't immediately grasp what her mother meant. Just let out and. Although you're still a sophomore in college. But it's not like you don't know. Back then, you were forced to take a 3-year leave from school because of an incident. You're not that young anymore. It's time to think about big things in life. Mother was on the phone. He went on and on with a long, rambling speech. Jill vaguely understood what her mother meant. She was just about to speak. And then let out another heavy sneeze. The man sitting in the Audi car instinctively pushed open the car door. Miss, I think Jingnian is quite good. Listen to your mom and think it over, okay? Mom finally got to the point. Ho Jingnian. Jill almost blurted it out without thinking. Me and him, no way. The man who was just about to get out of the Audi. The fingertips drummed slightly. The movement suddenly fell silent. How is it not possible? Hayden First Academy. The family background is decent upon graduation. Looks good. And I've known you on Dante for so many years. It's also consider red knowing each other inside out. If you're with him. I and your dad couldn't more at ease. Why can't it be considered? Besides, back when I was pregnant at the same time as you and Auntie even said. If we have one boy and one girl. Just let you get married then. I'll give you on Dante a call tomorrow. She would definitely be happy to. Jill was instantly flustered. If his mom really called his mother, then wouldn't it become? I've been insulted by him in every possible way. Still shamelessly wanting to marry him. Because I was in a hurry. Her tone became much higher. Even the tone became sharp and resolute. Mom, Pelinja one more time. Me and him, it's impossible. It's just impossible. I'd consider Anunabit Hayden. As Jill's words fell to the ground, a loud sound of a car door being slammed shut reached her ears. Jill instinctively toward the sound. It's a car of unknown origin. The Audi parked beside me emitted a. She was afraid her mother would actually call that guy's mom. Anxiously emphasizing Jinto the phone. Curiously perin Jinto the car window. Mom, I'm serious. Whoever I end up with, just don't let it be him. As soon as the words were spoken, the call was hung up. At the same time, before she could see whether the person in the Audi was a man or a woman, the car was suddenly floored with the accelerator, suddenly dashed out, vanished from her sight in an instant. I don't know if it's Gay Chin's illusion. She always feels. This Audi car feels somewhat familiar to me. Thinking of this, Chin slightly furrowed his brows. Suddenly felt a bit scared. The feeling that Audi gave her. Actually, the same as for years ago. The night she confessed her love to Ho King Neen. The young man suddenly dragged her into the alley. The burst of momentum was somewhat like, "When I got back to the dorm, roommates haven't come back yet." In the next season, Changxi finished taking a shower, glanced at the time. It's just past 9 o'clock. She picked up the book she hadn't finished reading in the afternoon. Keep scrolling. While she was completely engrossed in it, the dormitorian's lens suddenly rang. How strange. Now, everyone has a phone. The landline hasn't been used for over a year. As he thought, Jill walked over to answer the phone. She was just chewing betel nut. Couldn't speak up right away. The other end of the line waited for a moment. Seeing no one speaking, I took the initiative to say, "Hey." Instantly, Jill's chewing motion abruptly came to a halt. His fingertips, gripping the receiver, were slightly numb. This voice, even if turned to ashes, she also recognized it was Ho King Neen. Why would they call her dorm landline? On the other end of the phone, Hayden saw that there was still no response. "Hello again." Jill snapped back to reality. "Excuse me, are you looking for Liora?" The other end of the phone went silent again. It was her Wonsword the phone. "So you don't want to talk anymore?" Jill waited for about 1 minute. Without hesitation, he spoke up again. "Liora is not here right now. I'll have her contact you when she gets back. If there's nothing else, I'll go first." Before the word "dead" could even leave Jill's lips, the call was then cut off by He Jingning. Then, when she was about to fall asleep, Liora and her 2 other roommates just returned to the dorm. Awakened by the noise, she groggily sat up from the bed. "Ruo, yeah, did your phone run out of battery last night?" "No, what's up?" In the evening, Jikian stumbled a bit. He swallowed the name, He Jingning, that was already on the tip of his tongue. "Change it to your boyfriend Kling, our dorm landline. The phone is calling for you." "Brother," he retorted, "Liora." Jill heard a sound upon hearing the words. Peppermint casually checked the call log on the landline. "It's actually 10 o'clock at night. Wasn't he with us at that time?" Liora's motion of tying her hair paused for a moment. Hayden had originally made plans with her. Joined the outdoor gathering together. Just arrived at the gathering spot. After dropping her, Bohi, and Talia off, Hayden didn't even get out of the car. Just say, "There's something else." Left again right away. At night, she called the man. When asking him what time he's coming over, Hayden said wait a moment. As a result, she waited until 10 o'clock at night before he finally showed up. Liora kept pestering him and talked a lot. He didn't respond. She was naturally feeling a bit unhappy inside. In the end, they simply fell silent as well. But in the end, he took the initiative to talk to her. Ask her what the dormitory's phone number is. He has her phone number. What do you need the dorm number for? What are you up to? She was curious, but afraid of annoying him. Didn't dare to ask more. Just obediently told him. Who knew? He actually turned around and immediately called her dorm landline. At that time, was sitting right beside him. He definitely sent here for her. There are only 4 people in the dormitory. All 3 were at the party. Only Jill wasn't there. Liora's hand gripping her hair couldn't help but increase the force. But the sound from Hermith was very gentle. In the evening, brother, he asked me for the dormitory phone number. I saved it on his phone. Then deliberately gave your dorm phone number. His home landline insisted under it. He called his family again. Ended up getting beaten by mistake. Oh, I see. Peppermint and Talia put away their doubts. They each went to wash up. Exhausted, Jill lay back in bed and continued to sleep like a log. Liora stared at Jikian for a long while. I thought about it for a long time before finally removing my makeup and resting. The following week, Hayden never showed up. This weekend, Jill's high school classmate Li Da asked to meet up with her. Li Da has a cheerful personality, speak humorously, I got pretty close with the few people in Jill's dorm. Plus, he has some interest in mint. So he often treated a few girls to meals together. This time, they went all out and treated the whole dorm. People go to soak in hot springs. The hot spring resort is located in the northern suburbs. They set out on Saturday afternoon. Arrived at the vacation resort. Check-in completed. It's about time for dinner. Jill had always thought that dinner would just be the few of them. But by the time she put down her luggage and arrived at the dining area, but he saw Hayden already seated at the banquet. Had a chat with Liora. Jill suddenly regretted coming to the appointment. Meanwhile, Talia's face was full of astonishment. Brother, he just about to introduce Hayden to these girls. Liora was stunned for a moment. Do you know each other? Of course I know. Brother, he is the male god of our Roya. Talia didn't even think twice before speaking. But before she could finish speaking, Liora suddenly tugged at her arm, shaking his head at her, gesturing for her to continue. Quickly picked up on her words, adding that brother, he is my friend. So we all know each other. Although Tanghua was puzzled, but didn't say anything more. Liora cautiously glanced at Hayden. The man's expression didn't show much change. That was a relief. She continued to speak. What a coincidence. Turns out everyone knows each other. Yeah, what a coincidence. Liora followed with a sigh. Then see if ever Yoni has arrived. Immediately called the waiter over and asked for the menu. He didn't order any dishes, but handed the menu to Hayden instead. Hayden, you order. Hayden didn't hold back, opening the menu with one hand. Not a single word was said. Just using slender and beautiful fingers. Up from time to time, give it a little tap. He and Ho King Niner from the same place. Hayden is my boss. Liora has always been talkative. Even if no one asks, he still talked about the cause and effect of Hayden sitting here. After all these years, Jingnian hasn't changed a bit. Still so eye-catching. Just now in the lobby, I spotted Hayden at first glance. Liora heard these words. His face immediately darkened. Yesterday, she called Hayden to come out for a meal over the weekend. He said, we'll see. She sensibly and obediently followed his words. If he doesn't have a time, it's fine. Their dorm happened to have plans on Saturday as well. In order to talk to him more, Liora also told him. The person who made an appointment with them was Liora. Interested in Bohi. She was Jill's school classmate. Everyone is going to hot springs together. At that time, there was no response on the phone. But today, at Spring Resort, ran into Liora by chance. At this thought, Liora couldn't help but glance at Jill. The gaze was somewhat cold and indifferent. During the meal, Liora suddenly remembered. He hasn't exchanged contact details with Hayden yet. So he turned his head to face the whole night. Hayden barely spoke a word. Speaking of Hayden, I haven't got your contact info yet. Let's add each other as friends. Hayden took out his phone and turned on the screen. He then passed it to Liora. After Liora finished headcaning with his phone, Talia timidly spoke up. Senior, can I also add you as a WeChat friend? Seeing Hayden give a slight nod, Wang Hua happily stood up, scanned Hayden's QR code. Seeing this, Bohi also added Hayden as a WeChat friend. Liora has Jingnian's phone number, but didn't add Jingnian on WeChat. He also took out his phone and scanned it. Only Jill silently lowered her head and sipped her tea. Liora saw the situation. I casually asked her about Jill. You don't add Jingnian on WeChat. Leave a contact? Jill's motion of drinking tea paused abruptly. She lied effortlessly, saying, I forgot to bring my phone. Left it in the hotel room. Liora is a bit scatterbrained. Seeing Jill say this, he didn't think much of it. Then he turned to a topic was more curious about. By the way, why do you call Hayden Senior? If I remember correctly, Hayden doesn't seem to be from your B Film Academy, does he? Brother, he is the one. B-Movies Mint is back. Liora added gently. Brother, he majored in directing. Not in the same major as our acting department. Just as Jill was Abudo continued drinking his tea. After hearing Liora's words, once again, he stopped the motion of raising his glass. Hayden was the top scorer in the National College Entrance Examination back in the day. Got into Peking University. When did he change his major? Gave up the top Universitato transfer to be film school. Lee Da looked as if he had heard the most unbelievable news. Hayden, are you out of your mind? You're throwing away the prestige of a top-tier university. Not taking over your family business. He actually came to be film school to study directing. Hayden remained as composed and unruffled as ever. As if the person everyone was sticking about wasn't him at all. Hayden, are you out of your mind? Why did you do this? Why? When these three words came out of Lee Da's mouth, Hayden had always been indifferent. His brows trembled slightly. Then he stared intently at the teacup in front of him. Suddenly, it all settled down. There was clearly no emotion showing on his face. The impression it gives people. Yet it seems to carry a deep, sorrowful melancholy. It slowly seeped out from his body. The conversation ends here. Jill couldn't help but curiously lift his eyelids. He glanced a couple of times in Hayden's direction. Hayden sensed her gaze. He shifted his gaze lightly towards Jill. The moment our eyes met, he seemed to have come into contact with how much he detested such a thing. The color of his or her eyes darkened. The next second, he abruptly stood up, kicked the chair behind him away with one foot, left without a single word, walk away without hesitation. Others didn't notice other exchanged glances, so he stormed off in a rage. It's all a bit baffling. Know exactly what just set Hayden off. But they were in silent agreement. Didn't continue the previous topic. And Jill just drank a lot of tea, causing the meal to be interrupted halfway. She started going to the bathroom frequently. On her third time coming out of the bathroom, she suddenly noticed a figure standing by the trash can not far ahead. There stood a person. She instinctively looked up. It's Hayden. The man leaned against the wall with a leisurely posture. A cigarette was held between the fingers. A faint mist drifted and dispersed. He must have stood in the hallway for a while. Jill couldn't help but curl her toes, looking straight ahead, as if Hayden didn't exist at all. Continue moving forward calmly and steadily. Just as she was about to pass by Hayden, the man abruptly stubbed out the cigarette in his hand, accompanied by him flicking the cigarette butt into the trash can. Before Jill could even react, Hayden grabbed her wrist. Jill was suddenly startled. She didn't hesitate at all. In the next second, all strength is exhausted. Trying to break free from his grip on my wrist, Hayden only gripped her wrist tighter, causing Jill to be completely unable to break free. So she gave up. Looked directly at Hayden, calmly asking what you want to do. Please let go of me. The man seemed not to understand her words at all. Suddenly, with a forceful push, he slammed her hard against the wall beside them. Jill hadn't even steadied himself yet. His chin was grabbed and lifted by Ho King Neen. What should I do? I still want to ask you. What exactly do you want to do? The corners of his mouth were tightly clenched. His gaze at her was fierce yet tearful. I've told you before. Make you never appear in front of me again? Probably because I've been seeing Ho King Neen too often lately. Jill's immunity has improved significantly. But at this very moment, Hayden's words came like a sudden downpour, forcing herself not to think about those past events. Summoned all at once, Jill didn't know what was going to say next. But she was sure it couldn't be anything nice. She didn't hesitate at all. Cut him off before he could finish what he was about to say. What a coincidence. If possible, I also hope you never appear before my eyes again. Hayden's gaze turned somewhat fierce. Fierce, as if wishing to tear her apart completely. She knows he's angry. But she didn't understand why he was angry. 4 years ago, the one who endured all the grievances and humiliation was clearly her. So Ho King Neen, you can rest assured. I will absolutely not become a burden to you. Hayden held Jill's hand. The strength in his wrist became astonishingly heavy in an instant. Jill's breathing stopped in pain. Yet she never uttered a word to beg for mercy. Not even the slight scream of pain was uttered. She forced herself to speak calmly. Ho Jingnian, please kindly show some mercy. Let go of me so I can disappear from your sight as soon as possible. After saying that, she added a polite thanks as a formality. Hearing this, Hayden wished he could strangle the woman before him right then and there. His pupils were rapidly constricting. Even the fingertips gripping the woman's chin began to tremble slightly. He seemed to be furious to the extreme. Modi smiled. Thank me? What do you have to thank me for? If I remember correctly, 4 years ago you got laid by me. I give you money. You didn't ask for a single penny. So it should be me thanking you instead. His words carried an unprecedented sharpness. Jill felt as if he had been viciously stabbed by a sharp blade. The color drained from his face in an instant. Her hand reflexively lickened into a fist, barely holding back emotions. Don't let yourself fall apart. She still maintained her composure just now. Looking back, Hayden's movements remained unchanged. She's afraid to move. The tears hidden in the eyes will well up. Neither of them spoke again. The air in the corridor grew somewhat stagnant. I don't know how long it had been. Jill's phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Hayden seemed to be startled. Suddenly, he really asked his grip on her. Then the person took a step back. He left her behind and walked away without looking back. After the sound of Hayden's footsteps faded from her ears, she didn't care about her image at all as she leaned against the wall. Slowly crouched down. Hands trembling, Aussie answered the call. The phone call was from Bohi. Probably because she took too long in the restroom. They thought something had happened to her. Jill was afraid her voice would crack if she spoke. He hung up. Bohi school right away. I sent a text message to my roommate. Go back right away. After dinner, everyone went together to soak in the hot springs. The other few people were chattering away, soaking in the water and chatting. Jill just soaked for a while. He silently got out of the hot spring pool. I found a rest chair not far from Li Wenquan hot spring and lay down. It didn't take long. Liora glanced at Jill, suddenly got up and walked over to sit beside her. He even leaned close to her ear and whispered, Miss, can you do me a favor? Jill turned her head to look at her. What's wrong? My period is here. Li Da was at the hot spring pool not far away. Liora was probably afraid of being heard by him. He then raised his hand to cover his lips, leaning close to Jill's ear. Lowering his voice, he said, I just felt something was wrong with my stomach. Just woke up. I don't know what's going on this month. It's actually many days earlier than expected. I didn't prepare at all. And maybe it's because of the hot spring bath. The amount feels a bit excessive. The supermarket is a bit far from both the hot spring and our room. I only brought one pair of pants. Back and forth like this. I'm afraid of getting it on my clothes. So Jill, can you help me make a trip? Buy a pack of sanitary pads. Liora's request was no big deal. Jill didn't think much of it. Oh, he said, and stood up from the recliner. Thank you. Jill, I've really troubled you. Liora's eyes crinkled with a radiant smile. It's fine, Jill replied, just about to head to the locker room. Liora suddenly seemed to think of something. Then he whispered again, that's right. Jill, you don't have to walk me here anymore. I can't go to the hot springs when I'm on my period. I'm going to go back to my room and rest in a bit. So just help me deliver it to the hotel room. Jill replied, thank you. Liora thanked them once again. Just as Jill was about to step away, She added in a third sentence, almost forgetting. Jill, sorry. I've moved to room 1808. Not living next to you anymore. Jill nodded. Entered the locker room. After changing clothes, I finally headed to the supermarket. 10 minutes later, he left carrying a pack of sanitary pads and a bag of snacks. Upon reaching the luxury suite on the top floor, find the room 1808 that Liora mentioned. Pressed the doorbell. Jill waited for a little while. I just heard footsteps coming from inside the hotel room through the door. The door was immediately opened. Jill thought it was Liora and was about to speak. The person who opened the door didn't even glance at the entrance. He casually remarked with an understated tone, "Bring the stuff in." Then he turned and walked into the nearby restroom. Although Jill didn't see clearly who opened the door at all, but recognized who he was through his voice, she thought it was because that spoiled rich girl Liora couldn't stand living there. Paid out of pocket for a regular suite. After all that effort. So this is Hayden's room. It's also true that Hayden is Liora's boyfriend. They all rent into each other at a hotel. It's normal to live together at night. She didn't want to run into Hayden again. Taking advantage of the man still being in the bathroom, she quickly walked into the room, ready to put down the sanitary pad and leave. There's no need to greet Liora either. I'll tell her later on the phone. The stuff has arrived. That's all that matters. So Jill quickly pulled the items out of the shopping bag, placed it on the most conspicuous spot on the coffee table, and then not a moment passed. He immediately turned around and dashed toward the door at lightning speed. Who knew she had only taken a few steps when the bathroom door was suddenly pulled open. Hayden was dressed in casual clothes, holding a tissue and wiping his hands. He slowly sauntered out from inside. Jill suddenly froze. Her fingers gripped the shopping bag tightly as she took a step back. Hayden thought it was the person he had just called. The coffee was brought by the waiter, waiting in the house for him to come out and sign. The moment he could clearly see the person approaching was Jill. His fierce gaze shot sharply toward her. "How come you're here?" Jill felt a hint of confusion amidst his fear. Did Lam Yuk Nga not tell him? Who would come to give her sanitary pads? She immediately spoke up to explain that I was here to see Liora. Looking for classmate Lin. She didn't go to classmate Lin's room to look. What are you looking for in his room, Lin? Hayden's mind instantly flashed through. Last week, I had her at her place. She went back to school alone. When the man called at her dormitory, she opened her mouth and asked just one sentence. "Excuse me, are you looking for Liora?" So she put him and Liora together. Fine. Hayden's gaze was chillingly cold. What a lame excuse. You think you can use such an excuse to come to my room? Would I really keep you around? I'm telling you, Jill, 4 years ago, that was me drunk. You're giving it to me for free, right in front of me. I barely touched you. Now, even if you paid me to do it, I wouldn't even lay a finger on you. You really have no shame. I already said it like that back at the restaurant. You still have the nerve to come to my room. After all, she was just too naive. Thought opening my mouth to clarify would make him believe. Jill lowered his head. Not a single word more to say. He walked straight past He Jingnian and headed for the door. The moment Shepard opened the door unexpectedly stood her, several roommates, and Li Da. They didn't expect to see Jill in Hayden's room. "Jill, how could you be here?" Talia blurted out without thinking. But before she could finish speaking, Peppermint lightly nudged her arm, gave her a meaningful look. Talia came to her senses, shut his mouth immediately. The group was at Linorwa's suggestion, specially came up to invite He Jingnian to go eat barbecue together, showing up at this hour. Pure coincidence. And in their perception, Jill got to know He Jingnian through Liora. And Hayden is also Liora's boyfriend. At that moment, Jill appeared in Hayden's room. Clearly, it was her who betrayed Liora behind her back, taking the initiative to throw herself into Hayden's arms. The atmosphere in the hallway became a bit awkward. Jill knew that Talion Bohi had misunderstood. She spoke without a second thought. Lamruya, you're. At the same time, Lamuk Nga also spoke up. With a tone laced with a hint of innocence and surprise, he asked, Miss, it's so late already. What are you doing, brother? He's room. Why is she here? Isn't she the one who knows best? Jill's brows twitched slightly. Faintly, it seemed like he understood something. She had sensed it long ago. The subtle hints between me and Ho King Neen. You deliberately came up with a plan to cut weeds and dig up the roots, didn't you? But the conversation between the two of them by the hot spring was just too quiet. The others didn't hear a thing. Unable to testify for Jill. Just as Jill was thinking Gabbett how to clear her name, Peppermint was the first to speak up and smooth things over. If I remember correctly, Jill and Senior he both attended the same high school. They might have known each other a long time ago. It's just that none of us knew. Jill came to find Senior. Maybe there's some impotent to talk about. Talia heard Bohi say this. Nodding immediate line agreement. Right. Maybe they knew each other before. The two considered Thathy were all roommates, so I don't want to let the relationship has become too strained. Liora, however, had a smile in her eyes. Still the same gently tender appearance. No, I asked Jill about this before. She said she didn't know brother he before. Peppermint and Talia instantly choked up and didn't know what to say. And Jill also fully understood what Liora was trying to do. He had clearly made up his mind. Make yourself carry a burden. The crime of seducing a best friend's boyfriend. Why am I here? You don't understand? Jill asked calmly. Liora was clearly determined to play the fool to the very end. Eyes wide open. With a face full of confusion and bewilderment, he asked in return, Miss, what do you mean by that? How would I know you're here? It was clearly you who came running up to me. Tell me you're on your period. Let me help you boo sanitary pads. And you told me you moved to room 1808 to live. Did you ask me to deliver it here? Jill said while pointing at the coffee table in Hayden's room. The sanitary pads you asked for are on the coffee table in the room. Peppermint turned sideways and glanced into the room. Where are you? Oh, there really is. Peppermint thenest Roy again. Is what Jill just said true? Lam Yuk Nga. As if seeing something gutturally unbelievable. His eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. She looked at Jill with a hint of disbelief. Jill, why did you do this? I didn't ask you to buy anything for me. She acted as if she had suffered some great injustice. Her eyes turned red as she pleaded for help. Peppermint draws. You know it. I've been soaking in hot springs all night. If I were really on my period, how could I still go hot spring bathing? And Peppermint, the last time I had my period was when I was with you. Liora was so anxious that she started stomping her feet. He kept asking over and over again. Peppermint, you still remember, right? Peppermint hesitated for a moment. In the end, he honestly nodded. Look, even Bohi nodded. I didn't get my period. Why should I ask you to help buy things? Miss, why did you lie and slander me? Liora said, as she spoke. As if suddenly realizing something. Miss, is it that you want to fin brother he, but don't have an excuse? So they just you said me as an excuse. Right. It must be like this. Liora nodded heavily. Like an ally, he looked at Bohi and Talia again. You think about it, even if I really had my period, even if I really asked her to buy things for me, I definitely told her to deliver it to my room. How could I possibly let her deliver it to brother he's room? Moreover, if it was Relim who asked her to come, do you really think I'd still play with you guys in the hot spring for that long? Yeah. No girlfriend would allow her boyfriend with a pretty young girl in the dead of night, alone together in a room. Liora is He Jingnian's girlfriend. How could she possibly let Jill go? Had intimate contact with Ho King Neen. Peppermint and Talia both ignored Liora's remark. But the expressions in their faces. Obviously, he already believed Liora. Jill watched this scene. I finally understand it completely. Liora came prepared. Although she didn't knock successfully when Liora was holding a grudge against oneself. But she was certain that this scheming bitch had been planning to set her up all along. Liora could come up with such a watertight plan. Of course, not stupid. At this moment, she looked even more aggrieved. Tears welled up in the eyes. Jill, why did you take advantage of me? Everyone says. 4 years ago, Jill became an instant sensation in his very first year at B-Film. Not a simple character. If it weren't for that accident 3 years ago, caused you to be in a coma for 3 years. I'm afraid you're already the queen of the entertainment industry these days. I never believed in these claims all along. Because I think you are great, Jill. But until today, I just realized I was wrong. Jill, I really didn't expect that. You actually went so far just to get close to brother He. You actually used me as a cover. I've been so good to you all this time. Big, fat tears rolled down the painted wall. It rolled down from the corner of her eye. Liora's tearful weeping was as delicate as pear blossoms in the rain. Peppermint and Talia couldn't stand it anymore. Ruoya, stop crying. We're all sisters in the same dorm. How could you do something like this? Jill, just apologize to Ruoya. You're really going too far with this. Jill listened to their words. The heart feels a bit cold. His face turned somewhat pale. Hayden didn't believe her, fine. Even her roommates, who spent every day with her, didn't believe her. Hayden stared at Jill's eritreating figure for a long while, although there was some distance between them. But he could clearly see her fingers trembling. Hayden's lips pressed together slightly. Suddenly, he was about to speak. But he hadn't made a sound yet. With his back turned to him, Jill was the first to speak. The tone was no longer as pitiful as before. Instead, it was filled with mockery. Liora, when you say these things, doesn't it hurt your face? Jill, what do you mean? Obviously, it was you who took advantage of me. And still trying to falsifice me in front of so many people. You not only show no remorse or regret at all. You still say things like this. What the hell do you want? Liora cried even harder. She seemed to be startled by Jill. The body was trembling guncantarble. Looks pitiful and innocent. Jill, however, stared at her without blinking. I don't want anything. I just want to ask you one thing. Liora, what you did tonight? What you're saying is just messing with me. Still serious. Jill, it's already come to this. You still won't admit it was you who framed me. I still want to turn tables on them. Keep slandering me. Who exactly is turning the tables? Jill spoke up, interrupting Liora. Don't give me all this nonsense. Just answer me. Are you messing with me, or are you serious? Jill, I really didn't expect you to be this kind of person. Same as before. Liora still dodged her question. Jill didn't say anything more. Instead, he directly took off the waterproof watch he was wearing on his wrist. I genuinely consider you a friend. Even if I just found out you used me and slandered me. I'm very sad and angry. But I don't really blame you either. Liora was still talking. Jill, however, pressed the buttons in his watch as if no one else was around. Raised the watch to the ear again. As if listening to something. I still genuinely want to remain friends with you. Even I still want to talk to Bohi and let's pretend tonight never happened. The four of us are still the best roommates, best friend. Liora didn't finish speaking. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Miss, could you do me a favor? Liora was momentarily puzzled. This is clearly her voice. But she clearly did say that just now. Equally stunned were Bohi and Talia. The hallway was very quiet. Immediately after, Jikian's voice came from the watch again. "What's wrong? My period has come." Everyone instantly understood. That ordinary-looking watch. Turns out it has a recording function. Right after. At night, Liora and Jill had a conversation by the pool. The words commetumbling out one by one. Leora's face gradually turned pale upon hearing this. The corner of her eye, glancing at Hayden from time to time. The whole person was clearly having trouble standing steady. "I'm on my period. Can you help me make a trip? Buy a pack of sanitary pads." The atmosphere in the hallway became somewhat tense. Peppermint and Talia both looked at Liora at the same time. Leora's face turned alternately pale and red. She pressed her lips tightly together, hands gripping the clothes tightly. That look was exactly like a thief caught red-handed. "The recording is still going on. I'm going to go back to my room and rest in a bit. So just help me deliver it to the hotel room, along with Jill who is good." Liora recalled what she had said next. She felt as if she had been struck by lightning, shivered all over, charging at Jill with claws bared and teeth gnashing. "Enough, stop playing it," she yelled while swinging her bag at Jill. It smashed right into his face. Jill didn't expect her to suddenly strike. Just as the bag was about to hit her in the face again, a strong hand gripped her arm. With lightning-fast reflexes, he swiftly spun her entire body around. The bag brushed past Kian-ji's head, heavy banging on the door. It took Jill, still shaken with lingering fear, 2 seconds to snap out of it. It was Hayden who pulled her away at the critical moment. She instinctively jerked her hand out of the man's grasp, then took 2 steps forward, standing in front of Liora. "You're overreacting. Isn't it just because you're afraid Avarian will hear what comes next? I, Jill, have never been some kind of saint or do-gooder. If you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. Since you've provoked me, I won't leave you any room either." The recording has already finished headlining during the earlier incident. Jill, however, had no intention of letting it go at that, but instead rewinds the recording a bit. Continued to press play. "Almost forgot. Miss, I've moved to room 1808. Not living next to you anymore. Wait until the recording finishes playing completely." Jill just put away the watch. Then he turned a cold gaze towards Liora. "I've given you chances. It's your own choice to refuse it." Leora's face was deathly pale, almost frightening. The lower lip, bitten hard by the teeth, turned bluish. But Jill's tone grew even more icy. "Like a queen. Full of imposing momentum. Since you already know, 4 years ago, Jill became an overnight sensation in the B-movie industry in just her first year. Not a simple character. Then I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't mess with me." After speaking, Jill turned around and left without hesitation, until she stepped into the elevator. Peppermint and Talia Onlathan belatedly snapped out of it. Neither of them said a word. He gave Liora a disappointed glance. Then they each found an excuse and left. Only Lem Yuk Nga and Hoking Neen remained in the corridor. Liora hung her head. Dare not look at Hayden. Actually, she never intended to deal with Jill. It's because of Hayden. She had meticulous spline tonight's entire act. She is the famous campus belle of B-film. The line of guys chasing her cold circle the earth twice. But she's proud and ambitious. None of them are good enough. Until I met Hayden. She has a friend who's in the directing department. She only met Hayden because of her friend. From then on, she frequently goes to see that friend. It's just to linger in front of Ho King Neen a bit more. But the man never paid her any attention. Till 1 month ago. She was eating in the cafeteria with her friends. She deliberately sat next to Hayden. While chatting, she received a call from Jill. She deliberately raised her voice when she called out to Jill, want to catch He Jingnian's attention. The man indeed turned his head to glance at her. And during the meal, the man glanced at her repeatedly. She thought the man had finally noticed her. I'm secretly overjoyed. Later, to her even greater delight, after finishing the meal, Hayden walked up to her side. I asked a classmate, "Can I have your phone number?" At that very moment, she was doing her utmost to suppress the excitement bubbling in her heart. Pretending to be reserved, exchanged phone numbers with him. After that, she frequently and proactively contacted Hayden. Men rarely responded to her, but she thought that was probably just the man's personality. Born cold-hearted. Although he didn't explicitly say he wanted to be her boyfriend, when the rheumatem assumed their relationship, she didn't clarify either, because she thought they would eventually become boyfriend and girlfriend. Otherwise, why would ask her out to eat? Why invite her to the open-air party? Oh no, I meant to ask her out. But every time it comes with the phrase, your dorm rooms for words. It was just her at that time. Overjoyed at the get closer to her. He didn't notice the difference in Hayden's words at all, until the night off open-air gathering. After she came back, Jill told her. Hayden called the dormitory looking for her. A woman's intuition is scarily accurate. That night, she stayed with Hayden. Peppermint and Hawa are also here. So it's highly likely that Theman called to look for Jill. So before this weekend's hot spring date, she deliberately told Hayden, Jill is coming to soak in the hot springs here. So when she was at the hotel tonight, when I unexpected saw Hayden, she understood everything. Hayden was not at all interested in her. Obviously, the drinker's heart is not in the cup, he has other things in mind. And in the case of Jill, she's just a silly little thing, a pawn being used by others. So she couldn't accept it. But Liora didn't want to tear out pretense of cordiality with Hayden. So she wanted to ruin Jill. She wants Bohi and Huahua to look down on her. She also wanted to make Hayden think Jill is a scheming woman. So she's to get this scene tonight. She was full of confidence about tonight's plan. But no matter how much she schemed, yet never anticipated, Jill actually recorded the conversation on the spot. Instead, it ended up causing her to ruin herself. Peppermint and Huahua must have looked down on her in their hearts. But Hayden never spoke a word from beginning to end. Thinking of this, Leora's fingertips trembled slightly. She cautiously raised her head and looked at Hayden. At this moment, the man was bending down to pick up her bag. This rekindled a spark in Linor's otherwise lifeless heart. A glimmer of hope emerged. Does him doing this mean he will forgive her? Brother, he. Just as Liora thought Hayden would forgive her. The next second, Jingnian raised his hand. Then he smashed the bag right into her face. The intense pain pierced deep into Leora's heart. Her heart instantly sank to the bottom again. He wasn't even helping himself pick up the bag. He was clearly venting his anger for Jill. The incident where she just hit Jill with her bag. Return it to Jill for her. Leora's eyes instantly filled up with tears. She choked back sobs, wanting to explain further. Hayden, however, didn't want to spend another second with her. He retreated into the room and slammed the door shut with a furious force. After this incident, Liora knew she couldn't hold her head up in the dormitory. I found an excuse and moved out. The next day, when Jill returned to the dormitory, all of Lyra's belongings have been moved out. Peppermint was explaining to her about time when Peppermint and I came back. These things are already gone. Probably doesn't want to see us. So while none of us were around, come back and move away. But just now Zhao Yang from the dorm next door came over. She said she saw Lin Ruya in the afternoon. There was also a man who came over to help her pack up her things. She chatted with Liora for a bit. Liora told her she moved in with her boyfriend, right, Talia? Continuing from Bo, his words, Zhao Yang also said that guy is really handsome. Drove an Audi. Brother, his car is an Audi. Peppermint and I have ridden together twice. So Mint and I guessed. Liora probably Moveto Senior his place. Should be real. Peppermint's tone was very firm. Last time when we went to the open-air gathering, the people in senior his dorm said he only stays in the dorm occasionally. He has a place outside. It said that the mansion was bought outright in full. Several million. This he senior is really not just ordinarily rich, huh? Hayden's family background was clearly recorded before. Behind that man is the public listed company, the HO Corporation. Even a mansion worth hundreds of millions is within their means. But these gossip. It had nothing to do with her as early as 4 years ago. Even after casually listening to random chit-chat of my roommates, she thought it was half true and half false. Until the afternoon of the next day. Jill came out after buying water at the school supermarket. I saw Liora and Jingnian standing together. Only then did she realize the gossip that roommates were casually chatting about was all true. She's not far away, but couldn't make out what the two were saying. Giannian was toying with car keys in his hand. With his actions, the car he was leaning gaggant behind him. The headlights flickered from time to time. It really is the luxuriati that Bohe mentioned. Jill was momentarily dazed when she looked at Hayden again. The man who had been keeping his head down suddenly looked up. The gaze happened to be directed toward the direction where she was standing. The man's expression faltered slightly. Then he suddenly straightened up. That stance looked as if he was about to charge at her any moment. Jill instinctively turned around and ran away, afraid he would catch up to her. Insulting oneself. And today, Hayden and Liora met. It was also an accidental occurrence. Just as Hayden stopped the car to buy a lighter, he was suddenly stopped by Liora. The woman stood in front of him, mumbling and grumbling a whole bunch of words at him. He wasn't listening carefully. So I've been keeping quiet all along. Just as he lost his patience, just as I was about to tell Liora to move aside. The result was seeing Jikian standing not far away. She was looking at him and Liora. The gaze is very pure, without any emotion. But at that moment, he didn't know what was going on either. A sense of indescribable epic welled up in my heart. Instinctively, I lifted my foot toward her. But before that foot could step out, she had already hurriedly left. The man's mood instantly plummeted to rock bottom. He didn't even buy anything. He directly pulled open the car door and got back in. Didn't pay attention to Liora. Reaching out and continuously knocking on the car window, Hayden slammed his foot on the accelerator. Until the evening when having dinner with friends, Hayden's chest felt heavy and suffocating. After eating, friend Harvin reflexively ordered a cup of. Seeing Hayden also rarely smoking, that made him freeze for a moment. What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood? Hayden glanced at Harvin, still wearing that tight-lipped expression. What kind of damn job is this, making me so unhappy? Harvin spoke again, mentioning B-movies. He had even more to say. You said you're about to graduate from Peking University. The school is also recommending you to pursue graduate studies in the United States. In the end, you abandoned all those years of education, ran off to B-movie. I really don't know what to say to you. To take a step back. Even if you're tired of studying, based on what you've built up over these years in university, go back to your family's company and be the CEO. No problem at all. Why give up a bright future for no reason? Insist on starting from scratch. In the end, Hayden himself had no reaction. Harvin grew even more agitated and regretful. Honestly, I really feel sorry for you. I'm not afraid of anything else. I'm just afraid you're giving up too much now. One day in the future, you'll regret it. Hayden remained silent throughout. There was no sign of any intention to speak. Seeing this, Harvin suddenly seemed to think of something. He turned his head to look at Hayden. With a hint of uncertainty in his voice, he asked Jingnian, "You came to be filmed for a reason, didn't you? There must be something you're hiding. I've been your college classmate for 4 years. I've never heard you say you were interested in directing. Tell the truth." Is it for someone that you came? Hayden's finger stiffened slightly, yet still low, not answering. Harvin analyzed like a detective. 4 years of university. You go on a trip to buying every month. Are you going to meet someone? The reason you commined go to B movies. Is it related to this person? Is this person also in? B waiter. Pay the bill. Hayden, who had been insolent all night, finally spoke. Said the first sentence. Am I actually right about this? Harvin's wordswear left unfinished. Hayden finished heading the bill. Once again, left ahead of everyone else. Hayden drove to school. His expression was calm. Until nearing Academy Road, he suddenly hit the brakes, suddenly turned to look at the roadside. Under the dim streetlights, a girl curled up and crouched on the ground. Her head hung low, although her facias not visible. But he still recognized Jill at a glance. At this moment, Jill was squatting by the roadside, head buried in knees. She just went to the school gate alone and had a spicy hot pot meal. I didn't expect it on the way back to the dorm. My stomach suddenly started hurting for no reason. And the further I walked, the more intense the pain in my abdomen became. Now she can barely catch her breath. I had no choice but to slowly squat by the roadside. Want to pull out the phone to call for help. The pain just made her fingertips tremble too much. She couldn't even hold on to the zipper to open the bag. Gradually, her consciousness began to scatter. Just as she was about to faint from the pain, a familiar voice came vaguely from above. Why are you sitting here? Ji-shan struggled to lift his head, trying to see who it was. But before she could get a clear look at the person approaching, the pain in her abdomen made her vision go black. His entire body went limp and collapsed onto the ground. Jill, familiar voice rang in my ears again. The voice was filled with anxiety and worry. Jill felt that she must be hallucinating. That man. How could he possibly call her in such a tone? When she woke up again, the person is already in the warm bed. Last season, Keon Mangren was dazed for a while. Just then, Meng grabbed the blanket and sat up abruptly. This is a completely informal environment. The entire room exudes luxury in a low-key manner. Whose house is she at anyway? Soon the bedroom door was pushed open. She instinctively toward the sound. A strange middle-aged woman walked in quietly on tiptoe. Seeing Jill already awake, she then smiled warmly at the young lady. You're awake. Seeing Jill's guarded expression, she introduced again, saying, I am the butler here. You can call me Sister Zhang. As she spoke, Sister Zhang seemed to suddenly think of something. Continue talking, miss. Please wait a moment. I'll go inform the master. Sister Zhang didn't even give Jill time to react. He turned around and jogged out of the bedroom. About 5 or 6 minutes later, the door opened again. Hayden was dressed in a beige loungewear set. Jill froze in place, completely stunned. The person who took her home last night was Hayden. So before she passed out last night, those illusions she thought she saw, it's actually all true. Afterwards, Sister Jan brought over a bowl of porridge and placed it on the bedside table. She stirred thestieming kanji while, as he rushed towards GL, he said, Miss, when Dr. Chu came over last night, you said you have acute gastroenteritis. I gave you an 4 drip. As Mrs. Zhang spoke, Jill glanced down at the back of her hand. Sure enough, there were needle marks on the back of the left hand. Dr. Zhu suggests that you eat more light meals these few days. So I made you some kanji. Please eat something now. I'll have to take a medicine later. Saying, Aunt Zhang then brought the spoon filled with kanji to her lips. Jill didn't drink. She turned her head to look at Hayden standing nearby. Politely saying, thank you for last night. Jill finished speaking and threw off the blanket, getting ready to get out of bed. Miss, you've been unconscious for so long. Didn't eat breakfast or lunch. You're feeling weak. Better eat something to recover first. Take it slow and get out of bed later. Sister Zhang hurriedly spoke up to persuade. I'm fine, GL replied to Sister Jiang, picked up his hose from the floor, bent down to pick it up. Hayden, who hasn't spoken a word since entering the room, suddenly opened his or her mouth. The words were directed at Sister Jiang. Give me the kanji, then you go out first. It's Hayden. Sister Jiang hurriedly handed over the porridge with both hands. Then he left the room. Hayden took it with one hand. He looked at Jill again, calmly persuading them to eat a little. Even if there's no appetite, you should still eat a little. Jill, now wearing his hose, straightened up, opened his or her mouth and spoke. I'm really sorry. Last night, I troubled you. Hayden's brows furrowed slightly. Why isn't the kanjito you're liking? This is the first time that we'll have reunited in 4 years. He spoke to her with subtleness for the first time. It always feels a bit strange before the season. She glanced at Hayden, continuing along with Owen's own train of thought. Open your mouth and say I'm much better now. I'll take my leave now. The corners of Hayden's lips tightened slightly. A hint of displeasure flashed across their eyes. He stood gracefully in place. With a calm gaze, he watched her as she was about to leave. Say what you want to eat. I ordered the servant to prepare for you. In Jill's memory, Hayden rarely had the patience he showed today. If it were in the past, it's already a miracle Faith could calmly advise you once. I've already advised them 3 times today. It's really weird. Jill, however, no longer wanted to pay him any attention. She replied softly, thank you. No need. As Jill's words fell to the ground, she clearly sensed the man's expression turn cold and somber. The air inside the room grew thick with tension. At the moment she was about to leave, Hayden spoke again. Since I don't have an appetite to eat, then take the medicine. He shouldn't have even mentioned the medicine. As soon as the drug season is mentioned, I just barely remember. She still hasn't paid the money I spent on my own illness last night. So he hurriedly spoke up and said, Hayden is very sorry. I just called Tremor for a moment. Could you please tell me now? How much was the medical bill last night? He seemed not to hear Jill's words at all. Poured himself a glass of water without a second thought. Then took the pills, turned around and walked towards Jill. Jill didn't understand why he had to treat her like this. Last night, he brought himself home from the street. She might think he can't stand by and do nothing when lives are at stake. But now, she has woken up. She took the initiative to say she's leaving. Hayden shouldn't feel very happy and fortunate, should he? Could it be that he's apologizing on behalf of Liora? I don't know how. The thought suddenly flashed through Jill's mind. She was completely frozen as if hit by an acupoint strike, standing still without moving a muscle. He is Liora's boyfriend, the roommates all said. Liora moved into Jingnian's house to live. Yesterday, she saw it with her own eyes. Hayden and Liora, at the same time, appearing at the entrance of the school's supermarket. Back then, at the hot spring resort villa, Liora did such an excessive thing to her. Not even living in the dorm. As her boyfriend, he definitely wouldn't want his own girlfriend. Things have gotten sound pleasant with my roommate. That's why Hayden had to be patient. Making her eat kanji again. Make her take the medicine again. To express my apologies. Hope she can. Look at the fact that he saved her last night. Don't dwell on those past unpleasantries with Liora anymore. How much does Jingnian hate himself? Jill knew all too well. He definitely wouldn't do it out of concern. Would only do these things to her. So the more Jill thought about it, the more she felt. The reason I came up with myself is the most reliable. After a moment of thought, she turned to Hayden and said, no need. I don't need to take medicine. Hearing this, Hayden paused for a moment. He seemed to suddenly remember something. He turned his head and instructed Aunt Zhang, who was about to leave. Sister Zhang, you find a piece of paper. The medications that Ju mentioned last night. Write down how to take it. Wait a moment, I'll give it to her. Sister Zhang hadn't had time to respond yet. Hayden said yes. Jill blurted out without a second thought. No need, you don't have to do these things for me. Hayden was somewhat puzzled by Jill's words. He stopped nodding. He slightly turned his head to look at her. Jill secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Might as well lay the cards on the table. I know why you're retreating me like this. It's because of that night at the hot spring resort. Liora did those things to me. You're apologizing on her behalf, right? Hayden's lips immediately tightened. The grip on the water glass began to tighten. Don't worry, I won't do anything to her. What's more, you even saved me last night. I'll act like this never happened. Jill paused for a moment. He swiftly pulled out his wallet from the bag again. Take out all the cash inside. He took everything out in one go. This money should be enough to cover last night's medical expenses. Hayden held theater glass in his palm. Began to tremble slightly. Jill thought that Liora probably had other things going on last night. So he didn't come to stay at Hayden's house. If by any chance she comes back later, seeing myself here is definitely going to cause another misunderstanding. I used to think about leaving as soon as possible, seeing that Hayden had no intention of reaching out to take the money. He then put Themini on the bed. Then she politely bid farewell to Ho King Neen. I'm leaving first. So that Liora won't have to wait when she comes back. Cause unnecessary resistance and trouble. As soon as she finished speaking, Hayden suddenly raised his hand. He threw the water cube in his hand fiercely. With an extremely sharp crackling sound, Jill was so frightened they immediately stopped speaking. She instinctively took a step back. Want to distance myself from Ho King Neen before she could even start to move. Hayden suddenly took a big step forward. He yanked her fiercely in front of him. His body was trembling slightly with anger. The gaze directed at Jikian was sharp and icy. Like two invisible blades. I wish I could slice Hirinto 1,000 pieces alive. His chest was heaving violently. It's been a while. He barely managed to grit his teeth and speak. I'm telling you. Having said that, Hayden suddenly snapped back to reality. He almost blurted out what kind of words. He silently shut up. Clenched lips tightly. The rest has nothing to do with Liora. This sentence is something I just can't bring myself to say. Hayden moved his lips at her several times. Didn't think of a better excuse. This wasn't the first time for Jill. Put Liora and him together. This woman actually did all this to him. It all boils down to him apologizing on behalf of Liora. She even said something about Liora coming back. What right does she have to put Liora in his house? The more I think about He Jingnian, the more pissed off I get. His eyes were tinged with a hint of crimson. The fingers hooked around her collar trembled uncontrollably. In the end, not a single word was spoken. I could only angrily shake off Jill. He roared sharply again. Didn't you say you were going to leave? Fuck off. The deafening roar nearly scared the nearby sister Jang shitless. She didn't dare to step forward and help. He could only look at Jikian with a face full of worry. Several seconds passed. Jelkai silently got up from the ground without saying a word. She didn't say a word. Didn't even glance at Hayden again. He strode straight toward the bedroom door. And Hayden, brushed past him, suddenly reached out and gripped her wrist tightly, speaking sharply and deliberately, pausing after each word. I warn you, from now on, stop letting me hear anything about me from your mouth. Jill's expression remained unchanged. Just used up all my strength. She pulled her wrist free from his grasp. Then he strode away without looking back. Stay calm. Hayden's anger grew even more intense. After catching a glimpse of the stack of money Jill had left on the bed, he turned his head and suddenly lost control of his emotions again. He yelled at Sister Zhangyin, a furious outburst. What are you still standing here for? Hurry up and come over. The things in the bedroom that she just touched. Throw it all away. Damn, the last word still hasn't come out. Hayden caught sight of the girl's lingering figure out of the corner of his eye. He silently shut his mouth. Auntie Jam was so frightened that she rushed to the bedside in a panic, starting to pull at the sheets and quilt covers, not forgetting to grab that stack of cash on the bed, slipped it into his own pocket, until the sound of the front door being pulled open came from downstairs, the sound of being closed again. Hayden abruptly turned and entered the study room next to him. The anger in my heart still hasn't subsided. He slammed the door with a deafening crash. Sitting at the desk, he suddenly caught sight of the phone on the table, suddenly, as if remembering something. Quickly picked up the phone and scrolled through WeChat for a while. Finally, the fingertip stopped right on Talia's name. He hesitated for a moment. In the end, I still opened the window with Talia. Sent her a message. About half an hour later, pre-season, finally got out of Heejingian's maze-like neighborhood. Just walked to the roadside to hail a taxi. She heard someone calling her. Jill raised his head at the sound. I saw Talia standing on the sidewalk across the street. My stomach hurt so badly last night. Although Jill is fine today, yet did not dare to let down their guard. After meeting with Talia and chatting for a bit, the two decided to go to a nearby hospital. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we left the hospital. Probably because I'm sick. Back to the school dormitory, Jill took the medicine and immediately fell asleep. When I woke up again, it was already dark outside the window. Talia was wearing headphones, curled up on the bed, looking at the phone and grinning like an idiot. Jill thought she was playing video games. Went straight out of bed to drink water. Talia only then realized she had woken up. Turning to Jill, he said, "Miss, you're awake." He then gestured toward Jikian's desk with his chin. "I saw you were sleeping so it didn't disturb you. Thinking that after you wake up, the cafeteria might be out of food. I just brought some back for you." Jill finally saw. There are 2 takeout boxes on her desk. She thanked Talia. He just sat at the table and ate the dinner she brought back. Judging from the packaging, it's food from the first canteen. But the taste turned out to be much better than usual. Jill was puzzled. Couldn't help but turn my head and ask Talia, "Did you get this food at school?" "Yeah," Talia answered at the phone screen, fingers moving swiftly. "Why does it feel different from what I usually eat?" "Got it," Talia says flickered twice. Then there was no more sound. After a long while, she just put down her phone. Jill spoke up again. "You're just too hungry. Must be seeing things." Jill thought what Tanghua said made a lot of sense. Nodded in agreement. Talia climbed down from the bed. Mysteriously, he sidled up to Jill and sat down beside her. Then he spoke with a completely serious tone. "Jill, I this afternoon heard an unbelievable piece of news." Jill turned her head to glance at Talia. "What news?" "It's about Liora. I just found out. Turns out her boyfriend isn't senior HO after all." Jill froze up in hearing the familiar name. The fingertips holding the spoon trembled slightly. She lowered her eyelids. His face remained calm and silent. Talia continued to shari gossip on her own. Actually, she was never senior his girlfriend. However, she has indeed recently started dating a new boyfriend. That boyfriend is from our department. It's that guy who flaunts his family's wealth. A playboy who changes girlfriends as often as he changes clothes. Sean, I reckon. Sean is just fooling Garand with Liora. She kept talking and talking. Suddenly, it was as if something clicked in their mind. "Ah," he let out a sound. Then it suddenly dawned on me and I blurted out, "I knew it. Liora and senior he seem a bit off. I just realized it now. Liora did it right in front of brother he. He kept saying brother who and she were friends. Once upon a time. I want to say that brother he is Liora's boyfriend. As a result, Liriavan gave me a pat. I couldn't figure it out at the time. Didn't say anything further. Now that I think about it, it turns out she was the one being sentimental all along, claiming to be brother he's girlfriend. So Liora and Hayden. Actually, there was never any relationship to begin with. Are they involved? It doesn't seem to have a mech to do with her either. Jill paused for a moment. Continue eating dinner in silence. 11 o'clock p.m. Hayden kept looking at his phone over and over again. Finally, after half an hour, he got the news was waiting for. The content isn't long. Probably every message. That is, just a handful of words. But those few short words. He was watching with utmost seriousness. On the phone screen was a message from Talia. Senior Jill has already been to the hospital. The doctor said there's nothing wrong. She went back to the dorm and went straight to sleep. After waking up, I also ate the meal you sent over. I said what you told me to say. News about Liora. He told Jill every single word without missing a single one. She just took her medicine and took a shower. Now going to sleep. Without realizing it, Hayden inexplicably let out a sigh of relief. I don't know how long it's been. Talia sent him another message. Congratulations, big bro. Why are you so nice to Jill? Why did Hayden stare at these 3 words for so long? Just slightly raised her head. Recently, during this period of time, these 3 words were the ones he heard the most. Lee Da asked him why he wanted Torturn to be filmed to study directing. Harvin also asked him, why take the path with boundless energy when you can walk away from it? Have to start from scratch. Everyone says he must be out of his mind. Some people also say, he will definitively it one day. But how would they know? He was not crazy. He knows very clearly what he's doing. If he doesn't come to be filmed, he will definitively it later. Admitted to graduate school in the US with the recommendation. So what if you become the CEO of the HO Corporation? None of that was what he wanted. All he wanted was put Jill where he can always see her. As long as it is visible, that's fine. Hayden's gaze out the window grew somewhat dazed. Actually, years ago thought the same way. As long as I can see Jill, that's enough. So in the long years that have passed, he never dared to hope for a day when he could have her. Until that night 4 years ago. Fate intertwined them together, a twist of circumstances. Even though 4 years have passed, Ho. Jingnian still remembered clearly. That day was June 1st. There's only 1 week left until the college entrance exam. That weekend, there were no classes. The class committee is preparing for the soon-to-end high school life. Organized a dinner gathering. Several guys called the waiter over and ordered beer. Parting is imminent. It's inevitable to feel a bit sentimental. The whole room of class metastatically didn't refuse. Everyone's cup was filled with wine. Everyone was very excited that day. The wine in the glass disappeared quickly. In the end, almost everyone got drunk, including him. His head was a bit dizzy, and he was afraid that if he kept drinking, he'd really pass out. He found an excuse to leave the private room. I just walked out not long ago. He saw Jill coming out of the women's restroom, staggering out unsteadily. He hadn't had the Chinchetto speak to her yet. She was the first to flash him a radiant smile. Then she trotted over to him in a leisurely manner. Jill was clearly drunk, can't even stand steady. He was afraid the girl he loved would fall. He reached out and gave her a timely helping hand. And at this moment, Jill and recognized who he was. Facing him, she giggled foolishly again. Then, with a muffled voice, he called out the word, he. He just collapsed into his arms and went completely still. He knows. Jill was so drunk that he passed out in the hotel above the restaurant. He quickly booked a room. Holding her, he carried her into the room to rest. After tucking in the blanket, he originally intended to leave. Drunk and dazed, Jill reached out and wrapped her arms around his neck. He tugged several times, but still couldn't pull it off. This was the first time he had ever been this close to her. He gave up struggling with a hint of selfishness. In the end, he was also quite drunk and couldn't remember clearly. I don't know who started the kissing. In the next 2.5 minutes, Both of them dedicated their precious first time. Hayden's movements were clumsy, yet gentle. It was like a beautiful and enchanting dream he had. Until the movement ends. He could hardly believe it. Lying beside the equipment, staring at her intently for a long time. He only dared to reach out and touch the girl's face again. The fingertips felt a soft touch. Tell him all of this is real. At this moment, Heffenly snapped out of it. Overjoyed beyond words, couldn't help but grab the girl's little hand. Placing her soft fingertips against his lips, Jill was woken up by his playful antics. Her drunken hasn't worn off yet. The expression is somewhat intoxicated. A few sweet words escaped her lips. The tone was very soft. But he still heard it clearly. That's not his name. After saying this, Jill fell into a deep sleep again. Hayden no longer felt sleepy at all. The mind was even frighteningly clear. In the air, the scent of their flirtation lingered everywhere. He takes a sniff every time. The heart is brutally sliced to pieces once again. It's clearly summer. After intense exercise, he was drenched in sweat all over his body. Yet he felt as though he were in the midst of a freezing, snow-covered wilderness. A chill seeped deep into the marrow of my bones, so he didn't linger in the room for too long. Got out of bed quickly. He took a shower, got dressed, and left. The classmates in the private box on the second floor had already left. He stood on the empty street in the dead of night, looking at the lights not far away. Suddenly, the sound of her lying beneath him echoed in his ears again. The softly spoken words. At this moment, standing on the balcony quietly reminiscing about the past, was Hayden. Suddenly snapped out of his thoughts, forcing myself to stop reminiscing. Even after 4 years have passed, he still lacks the courage and guts. Let myself seriously take in what she said that night. Childlike yet complete, reminiscing once more. The weekend after recovering from the illness, Jill went back home. Had dinner with my mother. She saw there was still time. He curled up on the sofa and started watching TV. Mother cut some fruit and placed it in front of her. Then casually asked Jill a question. How has Hayden been lately? Jill's motion of poking Theeple with the toothpick suddenly paused. A bit reluctant tones were mother's words. Only after a long while did they reluctantly return. The stepmother could tell she was just going through the motions. Back when you were in sucking. Auntie has been soaking towards you. Jing Nian is now in Beijing. We can't just do nothing. So Jill, aren't you living very close to Jing Nian? Just when you were leaving. Bring along the nutritional soupum especially prepared for him. Pass it to him. Jill instinctively refused. I don't know where he lives. And I don't even have his contact information to give. Jill's words were left unfinished. The mother picked up her phone, skillfully flipping open the phone book, saved Hayden's phone number into her contacts. This was the last time the man came to the G family for a meal. Aunt G specified about it. Does Jill understand her? What she wants Toto, no one can refuse. Rather than getting into such a tangle with my mother like this, it's better to just go along with her wishes for now. At worst, she can just take these supplements back to the dorm. For Bo, he and Tang hua to eat. Clever plan was only halfway through. Her mom just took her phone. Quick as lightning, he made a phone call. Jing Nian, it's your Aunt G. G sat close to G's mother. She clearly heard from the phone. Hayden's polite voice. Hello, Auntie G. The man's voice was faintly hoarse. With a hint of weakness, G's mother noticed. With a concerned look, nervously spoke out. Jing Nian, what's wrong with you? The voice sounds so off. Sick? Just woke up. Hayden cleared his throat. The voice that spoke remained gentle and polite. That's good. The stepmother visibly let out a sigh of relief. And then it was cut off. The theme is like this. Hayden. Your uncle came back from a business trip a while ago. Brought some imported health supplements. Thinking of you in Beijing. This makes me give you a share as well. Coincidentally, Jikian came home today. She doesn't live close to you? Just in time. I'll have her bring it over to you. When are you available? Let Jill send it to you. Probably because of his mother. Hayden did not respond to Jill, show the slightest hint of displeasure and disgust. The tone remains gentle and courteous. I'm ready any time. The stepmother heard him say this. He took the liberty of setting the time himself. Can we go later? Nutritional supplement shave and expiration date, so that Jill won't be too busy with classes tomorrow and have no time. Thank you, Auntie G. You're welcome, Auntie G. Hayden's polite demeanor. Can't stop grinning from ear to ear. He mentioned Jingnian again. Then send the address to this phone number later. This is Jill's number. Hanging up the phone in less than 10 seconds, Jill's phone received a text message. Except for the neighborhood name and building number. No more unnecessary baggage. The ever-talkative He Jingnian's way of doing things. Jill felt like she was down on her luck. Now that mom is making this call. If she really embezzled the nutritional supplements, you never know when. Hayden and his mother ran into him and brought up this matter. When the time comes, she'll know her stuff wasn't delivered. Mother is definitely going to tear her apart. So they're always reluctant ashel before the season starts, but had no choice but to tough it out. Go to Hayden's house again. Half an hour later, she arrived at Hayden's residential complex. The girl went straight to the property management center. Want to leave stuff there for safekeeping? Let Hayden get it himself. It's just that the property management center has regulations. The owner must agree before items can be stored. So the staff first called Hayden. But whether it's the landline at home or the cell phone, I called several times but no one answered. In the end, the staff had no choice but to refuse Jill's request to store the items. Jill had no choice. After struggling for a while, still helpless, heading towards Building 16, where Hayden was. When I arrived at his house, Jill stood at the door hesitating for a long time. Just raised a hand and pressed the doorbell. The doorbell rang for a long time with no response. Shouldn't be like this. Mother clearly told him Thatch would come over tonight. I pressed the doorbell a few more times. Still haven't gotten any response. Jill thought to himself that this was quite good as well. She came, she's not home. She could give a proper explanation to her mother's side. Tomorrow she'll find a courier to send it to him. Tell mom she's busy with class. Later. No time for a second trip. Thinking like this, Jill turned around with the nutritional supum and headed back to the elevator. Just as she reached out and pressed the elevator's open button, a crisp snapping sound came from behind. Jill's entire body tensed up. 2 seconds passed before turning to look back. The door that Hayden had kept tightly shut just now. A crack was pried open. I don't know what the persona peeing the door is hesitating about. After a short while, the door was finally wide open. Hayden was wearing a full set of white pajamas, jumped into Jikian's line of sight. His hair is a bit messy. Just like I said on the phone with mom. A look of just having woken up. The man's face looked somewhat pale. He saw Jill, but didn't make a sound. Jill stood still. After a moment of unease, I finally steadied my emotions. Holding the nutritional supplements, she walked straight toward him. She didn't dare get close to the man. With head lowered, he handed over the nutritional supplements. This is what my mom asked me to bring you. Seeing Hayden didn't reach out to take it. The girl bent down and placed the nutritional supplements on the ground. It's getting late. I'm leaving first. Saying, Jill turned around and hurriedly walked toward the elevator. Because Hayden was standing right behind her, her movement of pressing the elevator button seemed somewhat stiff. She watched as the red numbers in the elevator climbed upward, praying in my heart for it to be quick, faster, even faster. Just as the elevator was about to reach the floor where Hayden was, suddenly, there was a loud thud from behind. Jill instinctively turned her head. Seeing Hayden, who had been standing just moments ago, now lying on the ground, Jill finally got a clear look. The man's face was frighteningly pale. His eyes and brows were tightly shut. The whole body exudes a sickly aura. So is he sick, then? And just now, Jill knocked on the door for a long time. No one responded. It seems Sister Zhang ain't home either. No one can take care of him. Suddenly, a ding-dong sound rang out. Jill turned his head back, just in time to see the elevators in front slowly open. For a moment, she was torn. I don't know whether to leave or stay.